Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there tonight. Had yourselves a wonderful day, and I hope everyone has been having a great week out there so far. Here to bring you the latest information that we have on the tropics. I thought I would make an evening update because there's been some significant shifts today in model guidance. I have not made an evening update since I think Saturday night, and not a whole lot had changed all the way up to this morning. But then the afternoon runs came in, and there's been some shifts that actually support those crazy outlier runs from the GFS. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I've been discussing in all my updates how the GFS is an outlier. It might not be anymore. So we're going to go over all the reasons why in this video. The first thing we'll discuss is what's going on with this tropical wave right now, which, by the way, is a pretty healthy tropical wave. We'll go over the latest information from the National Hurricane Center that we have, and I say that because there will be another advisory that drops here in about 45 minutes to an hour. I'm going to try to catch it right at the end of this video. We'll see if we can do that. But I will kind of give you guys my take on what it will change to over the next few advisories as we get into the overnight hours into tomorrow morning. We'll go over all the latest model guides, the GFS, the European. We'll go over its ensemble guidance. And then we'll discuss the environment background ahead of this storm that could promote this to eventually strengthen. And then we're going to spend a lot of time on steering currents. And I think the last two timestamps of this video is very important. It's a portion of the video that a lot of people will probably skim right over because it's hard to understand. I mean, it's difficult for me to explain to you guys, the audience, but my goal with this channel is to try to explain things in a way where you guys can understand. So definitely stay tuned for the back half of the video, even though a lot of it's just a weather nerdiness, if you will. It's very important to understand because it really helps us understand why the models are kind of showing what they're showing. So we're going to really geek out with you guys in this video and have some fun doing it. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put those in the comments below. That's very important to me. It's important to others too. It's a family type atmosphere on this channel. And we certainly want to pray for you guys if you got anything that we can pray for. So let's get rocking and rolling. I've struggled starting this video, so hopefully we can continue to roll through this pretty smooth. But this is our tropical wave right here. And I know you probably are thinking, or you might be thinking, this doesn't look a whole lot different than this. Or maybe even this huge area shower and storms, this huge line of storms sweeping through South Georgia right now. But it's definitely different. This is a wide open, very large, broad tropical wave right now. It's not a depression or a named storm. Okay, it's just a very large tropical wave, which, by the way, is popping off some new deep convection right into here. So this is Puerto Rico, Lesser Antilles, the Bahamas over here, Cuba. This is the Dominican Republic and Haiti. And this wave's just chugging along more so west than north. So I would say it's moving west-northwest just about right now. So it's not an invest as of right at this second of me making this video, which is around 7 p.m. Eastern time. Still not an invest, but I think we could have an invest out of this, which means that it's just, an area of interest, basically, an investigation, if you will, out here, which they dub kind of a tropical wave that has a potential to eventually develop. But this is a very healthy tropical wave, popping off that convection shower and storm activity. No defined low-level circulation, or that would most likely make it a tropical depression. But this is going to continue to sort of move this wave. Couple things we'll watch for is if a dominant vortice kind of forms on the southern areas of this tropical wave here. I know that yellow kind of blends in with some of this other yellows and oranges and reds, which, by the way, the reds, the deeper reds, even the blacks, that indicates colder cloud tops, which tells us we have deeper convection. Storm, those clouds are soaring up higher up in the atmosphere. The higher up you go, the colder it gets. So this symbolizes colder cloud tops. But this is going to continue to move in the air, and the arrow I just drew in that direction. Does kind of the northern part of this wave kind of become consolidated, or does the southern part of this wave become more dominant? Some of the model guidance, a lot of it is, more than half, is saying, hey, the southern part is going to become the dominant part. And now this is going to try to get on the west side of Florida and to the dreaded Gulf of Mexico, rather than get on the east side of Florida off the coast of the southeast. Okay, and we're going to go over all that model guidance that shows what I'm talking about. Okay, but that is our wave. It's getting pretty close now. I mean, it's not super far away anymore. Okay, so the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Let's see if we got a new one. We do not. So this is from around 2 p.m. Eastern time. All right, this is where that tropical wave is right here, kind of in the northern sections of the Lesser Antilles. Okay, and it has a 60% chance as of now to develop sometime in the next 7 days in this orange area here. Kind of the orange outlined area with the orange lines going in between it. That is most likely where it's going to develop. So this is what I think will change in the next advisory, maybe here in the next 30 to 45 minutes. I think they'll bump this up to a 70% chance. That'll make this orange area red. Okay, and I think that they will extend this area. I'm going to use black here. I think they'll extend this area a little bit further over here. Okay, and maybe keep this area over here. And I think that this orange, or if it bumps up to a 70 or higher, a red will extend a little bit further into the Gulf of Mexico, into this area. That's my call. Now, if they don't do it at the 8 p.m. update, which is here in the next hour or so, I think there's a potential they'll do it at the 2 a.m. update if the middle of the night model guidance continues to show the strengthening of this in this general area. But this is the time I'm making this video, still has a 60% chance to develop in the next 7 days in this orange area here. So I have this pulled up at the back half of the video too, so we'll try to catch a new update. But as of now, that's all I got. So if it does bump up to that 70, guys, I know, I see it. But, you know, I couldn't wait till 8 p.m. to make the video. You guys that's been tuning in for a while know my bedtime's like 8:30. So anyways, we're going to start this off with the GFS this time instead of the Euro, because the GFS might be leading the pack here. Not maybe because of that worst case hurricane scenario, but more so where this goes, where the energy goes, okay? So we're going to look at the precipitation outlook from Tropical Tidbits here. So this is starting tomorrow morning, August 1st. Last evening of July is right now. We go into the next month. I'm excited because we're a little bit closer to fall, but anyways, that's a discussion for a different time. So this is our tropical wave right here, okay? I know it doesn't look much different from this to that up here, but this is our wave right here. So we're going to keep this going, and this is the latest model guidance. So this is the latest and greatest information I got for you guys. We're going to continue to move this into Friday morning. Notice it starts to show a dominant low, a dominant vortice south of Cuba, all the way down close to Jamaica. Now, my friends that are viewing from Jamaica, I wouldn't be too concerned. I don't think that this is going to have time to develop sometime in the next 48 hours, which is about all it has before it gets close to your area. It would need a lot more time. But watch what happens. This continues, and then we get into Saturday morning. A lot of shower and storm convection, gusty showers and storms across Cuba. Okay, but look, it's starting to, it's heading west. It's not heading north, guys, on this run. And then we get into Sunday morning, and all of a sudden Sunday morning, we have a 1,004 millibar low. This is getting close to Debbie, which is our next name of the hurricane list of names for 2024 is Debbie, the D name, Tropical Storm Debbie. Okay, we have this already at the back half of the weekend, Sunday morning, August the 4th. Now, watch what happens. It looks like it's just steadily starting to go north now. It starts to deepen. The more you see this number drop, this millibar here, for example, it goes to 1,003 to 998. That indicates a strengthening storm system. So now we have a sub 1,000 millibar low. Now we have a sub 990 millibar low, which I would argue would be a Category 1 hurricane. Monday morning looking like it's heading right towards the panhandle of Florida. I know Monday morning seems like a little bit far out, but it's really not. It's right around the corner. We're almost all the way to the weekend. So all of a sudden, we got a strong tropical storm, low in Category 1 hurricane, heading right towards the panhandle. Then it deepens to a 983, deepens to a 981 to Monday evening, and I would say it makes a landfall sometime next Monday evening into the panhandle of Florida. Then watch what it does after this. It begins to stall out, dump a ton of rain, tropical storm, low-end hurricane force conditions over the panhandle of Florida, and then it dips back into the Gulf of Mexico. It's back over water, and you can tell because you can see the millibar right here. That number began to drop again. Then it scoots, makes a secondary landfall next Thursday morning, a little bit further west on the panhandle of Florida, and then finally it finds a weakness, which I'll talk about that weakness and stuff and why this is slowing down. If you just stay tuned with me until we get to the steering currents timestamp. I'll talk about why it's stalling like that here in a second. There's a reason why it's doing it. But finally, this works its way inland, brings impacts to Alabama, Mississippi, etc. But note, I mean, we're all the way into like next Friday, guys, August the 9th. There's a possibility we're still talking about this system like in mid-August. There's a chance if these models are even somewhat correct. That's the latest GFS. Okay. Now, what about the European? Now, remember, the Euro was gung-ho about doing this right here. Get that off the screen, of doing this right into here. Okay, a few days ago, it was doing like this, strengthening, getting pretty strong. And once upon a time, showed like a major hurricane off the coast of North Carolina. It steadily began to kind of get closer to this area, a little bit closer to southeast coastline, starting to get close. But watch what it does now. Okay, that's our tropical wave right here, this blob of green, Thursday morning, Friday morning, starting to, kind of get close to Florida. And then we get into Saturday morning. Okay, I don't see anything off the southeast coastline, do you? No, that's because the energy is right into here. Now we get into Sunday morning, and to me, the energy is right here. And in fact, you jump over and you look at 850 Vort, which tells us where the energy is, because it's hard to tell on the precipitation map because you see blobs of green everywhere. But you see this yellow area, that's where energy is located in the low levels of the atmosphere. Okay, it's not well put together. You have no defined low-level circulation at this point. The GFS already has just about a tropical storm in the same location. I would focus more on that. The location, not the strength. Okay, now let's just go on and flip it back to the precipitation output here. All right, and then we get into Monday. Well, we're still in a Sunday afternoon. This is starting to bring a lot of shower and storm activity, tropical downpours across Florida. But it's still, the main energy looks to still be tucked into the northeast section of the Gulf of Mexico right here, Monday morning. And then this looks like it's trying to develop. And then we're getting to Tuesday morning. Okay, we're getting into like next Wednesday evening, August the 7th. It like almost wants to strengthen this system over Florida. Then it gets it back over the east side of Florida. So at this point, this energy has done this. Okay? And then that. All right? That's wacky, right? I mean, I would agree. Okay? And then, I mean, we're still talking about it next Thursday morning. Guys, over a week from today. So we get this back off the screen here. And we keep this rolling. And then it gets off the coast of southeast. Gets over the warm waters of the Gulf Stream, and then begins to deepen. We got a 998 millibar low, and then it looks like it's heading northeast out to sea, but if you look at the last couple frames there, it looks like it starts to turn north. And there's a reason it starts to turn north, but guys, it's 10 days out. There's no point in really discussing too deeply on that. But I mean, you got a pretty strong tropical storm, low-end hurricane, Category 1 hurricane off the coast of Virginia and North Carolina. That's a pretty wild difference. 240 hours out on the GFS, you have a weakening tropical storm way over here. Okay? That's the Euro. This is the GFS. It's way over here. The energy is like getting over Arkansas because it's already made landfall on the Gulf Coast. Now, this is a model I've never shown on this channel. I had to get with one of my buddies on social media. His name's Matthew. He's from the Northeast. He's very knowledgeable when it comes to the history of model guidance and basically which models are the most accurate. Okay, the verification scores of these models. And this is basically called the AI Euro. Okay, and he said that this model, and I'm explaining this for a reason because what you're about to see from this model is outrageous. Okay, he said this model is like the second most accurate model out there. So I'm going to start to show this periodically, but I just want to explain what this Euro is, what this model is, okay? So watch what this model does. Same thing, gets this energy, cruises it over the same areas as the actual Euro and the GFS does, gets it kind of in the same as the Euro, right, and the GFS, gets it just inside sort of the northeast armpit of the Gulf of Mexico, 1012, 1013 millibar low, a weak low, cruises it back over Florida, gets it off the coast of the southeast, actually starts to move back south into the Bahamas. It's strengthening. We all of a sudden, next Thursday, August the 8th, we have a tropical storm. Okay, 999 millibar low. it deepens into a hurricane off the coast of Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina. And then it deepens all the way to a sub 980 millibar Cat 2, maybe major hurricane, and makes a landfall into this North Carolina coastline. Not this Saturday night, but next Saturday night. Wild. And to me, it's wild because we're talking about this for so long. I made a joke on social media saying we're going to be talking about this till football season. But we won't. But I think there's a chance we're still talking about through mid-August, which I consider August 10th through, the 20th. Okay? So, wild stuff, right? So, what about the European ensemble guidance? So, remember, all this ensemble, the EPS, okay, makes up 51 members. In this particular case that I'm showing you, this output from weathernerds.com, this puts all potential 51 members and puts them on a run for you, like an output, okay? That doesn't mean if all 51 members don't show up, then you're only going to have some of them. For example, if only 32 out of 51 of the members show, then you're only going to see 32 L's on here, okay? That means in that particular simulation of all 51 runs from that EPS run, only 32 members actually form into a formable low pressure. So watch what happens, okay? Already, and I'm starting this for around Saturday night, this coming Saturday night. Already you have a huge spread. And I want to know right out the dot, because I don't want to hype anything up. All these members are pretty weak. None of them at this point are a sub 1,000 millibar low, which we wouldn't expect it this early this weekend. Now watch what happens. Already a huge spread. You got a lot of members in the Gulf of Mexico, and you still got quite a few members, not that many though, still off the coast of the southeast. But watch what happens. Okay, you're thinking, okay, well, some of these members are making landfall as a weak tropical system to the Panhandle, Florida, west coast of Florida. You got some members meandering off the coast of the southeast. Now it's going to be hard to keep unless you got about 32 eyeballs. It's going to be hard to keep your eye on every single one of these L's, right? So watch how these L's just all kind of begin to hook, almost get bogged down. They just kind of start to go everywhere. They're like literally going everywhere. You got some that are kind of booking it back south in the Gulf of Mexico. You got some that are just kind of zigzagging off the coast of the southeast. Guys, and we take this literally, at this point, how far are we? We're 10 days out right now. Look at these members. Only a percentage of them just kind of jet off to the northeast and head on out to sea. A lot of them get trapped under ridging, which we're about to talk heavily about here in a second, and sort of just get quite literally bogged down. And they cannot move one way or the other, and they sort of just, the steering current's basically slow to a halt. Okay? So I'm going to talk why this looks crazy. You compare this, right? Compare this to the cycle last night to the run. That is a dramatic difference. Had mostly all of them going off the coast of the southeast. Now, you look at the current run, a lot more confusion. Okay, so let's look at the latest GFS ensemble, the GEFS. Okay, this makes up 21 runs. And guys, I only have this out to about 120 hours. Okay, and there's probably a lot of people on this site right now, so it might go slow. But yeah, that is your most probably, I would say, alarming run yet from the GEFS. Has a lot of these members, all of them, that do form. Remember, this only makes up 21, so you're not going to see as many L's on your screen as the EPS because that makes up 51 members. It forms nearly every single member and keeps it in the Gulf of Mexico. And I wish I could go out a little bit further, but the latest run, I only have, it's still running. This is literally the latest information. So, you see the areas in the red. We don't have those available yet. It's still running. Maybe I can remember to go back to look at this. But guys, it has a lot of members in the Gulf of Mexico now. All of them just about. And some of them are kind of strong. Some of them are like a 999 millibar that's strengthening. A lot of these are on the way it's strengthening because, the Gulf of Mexico is a bathtub, guys. It's very warm. So, yeah, definitely an alarming trend, I would say. And you compare this run at this hour, which this takes us all the way out to Monday, okay, Monday afternoon. You compare this run to last run at the same time frame. And, yeah, you got pretty much all the members in the same location, but that's significantly less members forming. And now you compare that with the newest run, right? That's a lot more members forming now. Okay, so we're definitely heading in a direction now. A confusing direction, but a direction. So let's talk about the ingredients that could support strengthening of this system. And then we'll talk about steering currents, and then we'll be done. So our tropical system is right here, right now. It's very large, very broad. That's where all your convection, shower, and storm activity. I know you're thinking, Mitch, what does this 29, 30, 31 mean? This is in Celsius. It's not really a great site that shows it in Fahrenheit. So 29, 30, 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, when you kind of equate that to Fahrenheit, that's temperatures in Fahrenheit in the mid to upper 80s in some cases. Look at this area of water, sea surface temperature wise, in the Northeast Gulf of Mexico, that a lot of model guidance is now showing that this energy is going to get into now. That's 31, 32 degrees Celsius sea surface temperature water. That's temperatures in Fahrenheit in the upper 80s to close to 90 degrees. Okay, it's bathtub water. And I mean, even if this gets over here, it's still very warm. So go on and just check that off the list for an ingredient that's going to support strengthening of this system. And honestly, that is why this system is doing so well right here, right now. There's a lot of still dry air kind of on top of the system. But this is just cruising right over that dry air, right through it, because it's just popping off tons of convection, because it's fueling off that very warm waters of the sea surface right now in this area. So yeah, always want to show you that. Check that off the box. Okay, you compare this to average. This is compared to average what this sea surface temperatures are. So basically, this is 1 to as much as 3 degrees Celsius wise above average for this time of the year. So this is record warm sea surface temperatures for this time of the year that this tropical wave is going over right now. So pretty incredible stuff. And we've been known this, guys, that the waters out there in the Atlantic are well above average. Okay, we've known that. We've always known that was going to happen, and it's been the case for several months now. Next thing you look at, which can throw some people in a loop here, is the upper wind pattern. So I know all you're seeing is these slashes of blue and these arrows that are embedded in these little streamlines out here. This is winds at about 35 to 40,000 feet up in the air, 200 millibars. So we look at this when we're trying to find shear. There's a way to look for shear with this, and just the upper wind pattern. Is there a favorable outflow? Is there not? What is there? So I'm going to try to explain this the best way I can. We get into this coming Saturday, and let's take it all the way to about Saturday night into Sunday, August 3rd into August 4th, okay? Our low is probably going to be, and I know it shows a low over here, and it very well could be over here. But our low could be right here. It could be right there. Our energy, our tropical wave, is just somewhere into here, okay? So let's just say it's right here, okay? All right, in the northern hemisphere, flow in the mid to low levels of the atmosphere flows cyclonically. So, okay, if you got a hurricane and even in just a weak tropical wave, tropical depression, tropical storm, the flow around this central low, central pressure is going to go like this. Now, if you look above this storm, okay, in the upper levels of the atmosphere, which is what I'm showing you, okay, you have these arrows embedded in these what we call streamlines, and it's actually going in the opposite direction in the upper levels of the atmosphere, kind of flowing like this, like that, and like this. So to me, this is a favorable upper wind pattern for the most part. Of course, any tropical system is going to deal with at least a little bit of shear. In this case, it might be on the southern edge of the system. Just not sure. So you're probably thinking, well, if winds on top of the system are going the opposite direction, this is probably disrupting the cyclonic flow. If the winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere are actually going cyclonically. Okay, it doesn't actually. So air is constantly rising. It needs to rise in these tropical systems. And as it rises, if you're getting air getting pushed out away from the system, that allows for more air to rise and get introduced into the picture. That gets pushed out, whether it's just pushing out one direction or all directions or whatever it may be doing, that allows for more rising air. So we know that rising air supports storm development, shower and storm development, convection. So if this storm is in a favorable upper wind pattern, then it's able to just maintain and continuously fire off convection. And I think that's why it's healthy right now also, is because it has a pretty good upper wind pattern right now. And this is allowing for it to take advantage of those record warm sea surface temperatures. And that will continue as this cruises over this area. I think the only thing that might hold this back, say if we took away Cuba and Hispaniola right here and right here, I think that this system would have a chance to develop in the shorter term right into here. But I think that its main pieces of energy are going to kind of struggle getting more confined over the Greater Antilles, the Caribbean islands, until it gets into the Gulf of Mexico, where it's not getting bothered by anything until it gets closer to the U.S. So check that off the box too. Okay, no upper wind pattern is perfect, but it's going to be favorable. So this is the part that is going to get maybe confusing, but I think that this part is very, very important. Okay, the reason it might be confusing is because initially it's going to be hard to see the low here. So we're going to start this by looking at the GFS. Why does the GFS stall out like it does? Okay, and this is initializing for tomorrow afternoon. So our low is right into here. Okay, this is our big tropical wave is probably going to be right into here at this point tomorrow afternoon. Okay, so you can just do a big old L. Okay, and in fact, we're going to just start this over and we're going to do it like this. All right, low pressure, I don't know, somewhere right into here. Now, in the red colors, or you can call this pink or orange, or I like to just say warmer colors, this is ridging or high pressure. Flow around this goes different than low pressure, which is going to be indicated in blue on your screen. You don't see any blue right now because there's no really dominant low pressure out here, including our tropical wave. It's just not a dominant low. It's a very weak low. But there is a lower pressure right here with this tropical wave. So this low is kind of getting steered, even though it's very light steering currents, by this high pressure here, which is going to flow around this like this. Okay? And I mean, even some ridging down here, so it might kind of dig down here or kind of right into here. Of course, here in the next 24 hours, when this system is right here to right here, this light ridging might recede a little bit, might not be as much of an influencing factor. But anyways, we know that steering currents around ridging goes like this. So it's going to be going from east to west, and that is ultimately why our low right here is going to continue to chug off this way, because it's feeling the steering currents from this light ridging, which by the way is very light. I want to continuously note that. See this lighter shade of reddish pink salmon color? The steering currents are just weak out here. Now you start to see the darker colors on the screen. Okay, the steering currents around this is more of a factor. Okay, so get all this off your screen and we'll keep this going. All right, we're going to continue to move the GFS. We're going to get now into, this is Saturday morning. Big difference, right? You notice a big substantial difference to the top of your screen. So now you have this upper trough digging down, or upper low, whatever you want to call it, this area of low pressure that's digging down here. This digging down here breaks open this ridge. It kind of splits it up, breaks it up, and creates a weakness right in here. Now, if you look really closely right over Cuba, you'll see this splotch of blue. Okay, that is where our lowest area of pressure is. So this low, which at this point is still kind of moving more west than anything, is going to feel this weakness that I just drew in this squiggly line, because this low comes down here and breaks this ridge open. So this low is going to start to turn into the Gulf of Mexico at this point. Okay, now this could still very well do something like what it was showing before and kind of turn a little bit sooner. It's just, hey, how strong is this system going to be right in here? And how fast does this opening happen because of this low digging down, breaking open this ridge? But I think this is more so driven off the fact what I discussed in the beginning of the video, and I will kind of jump back and look. I think that I think that this portion of the storm right here is going to be the dominating force over this one right here. And I think that this will cruise further south because of it. Okay? So I think that this is just going to cruise further south, more so like this, rather than like this, which makes a substantial difference right in here, because if it's further north, it's going to feel that weakness faster. If it's further south, it's going to feel that weakness slower and kind of drift into the Gulf of Mexico. Because this is still an open wave right here, guys. I mean, there's nothing really consolidated about it. It looks pretty impressive on satellite, but it's still very large, it's very broad, and it's not fully together. And that happens a lot with these larger tropical waves. So we kind of go back to this, and we continue to discuss this. So if we continue to move this forward, the GFS, as we showed you earlier in the video, wants to strengthen this. All right, so at this point, we are Sunday morning. We got this definitely, I mean, might be like a tropical storm at this point with a wide open weakness right here. So you're thinking this is probably just going to easily cruise right into the Panhandle of Florida at a pretty quick clip, not have a whole lot of time to strengthen too much, and then maybe worst case scenario, we get a tropical storm low in hurricane. Well, watch what happens as we continue to move forward. I'm going to actually look at this at a different geographical vantage point here and flip it to this. Okay, now we're at Sunday morning, so this is more of the U.S. So once again, just so I didn't lose you here, our lows way down here, what could potentially be Debbie. Okay, wide open weakness. You're thinking, all right, that's cruising right north, because a low pressure or stronger system is always going to want to turn north faster. It wants to get poleward, it wants to gain latitude. But watch what happens very, very quickly as we're getting into the end of this coming weekend into early next week. Ridging quickly builds over this system. Looks light at first, light enough to where it doesn't really affect this. It still is able to kind of tick north, right? So it makes landfall like Monday night, right? But a ridge is now building over this. So remember, flow around this ridge is going like this. Okay? That's how flow around this ridge of high pressure is going to be going, for the most part. Okay? Flow around this, around the low pressure, and I'm just going to give you an example, is going like this, because this is the bottom of the low pressure, this is the top of the high pressure. This is the bottom of the high pressure going that way, right? Bottom of the low pressure. See how they're different? They flow differently. Okay? So by the time the damage is done, this has made landfall as a hurricane in the Panhandle of Florida. Okay? The thing that's unfortunate about something like a scenario like this, if it was to happen, is it just gets bogged down, because high pressure continues to somewhat build and sustain itself over this system. So this system is having a hard time continuing to move north because flow is kind of pushing this back down. Okay, so it's kind of working against it. Okay, it's kind of like gears, if you will. It's working against the cyclonic flow of the low pressure right here. So this is actually it's eventually going to, because of the steering currents around this high pressure, going to try to actually work back west. All right, and watch what happens. If this ridge would stay right here and not build this way, this would probably try to escape like this. But instead, come on, let's work with me. Instead, this ridge, even though it's light, builds on that northeast quadrant of this low and kind of prevents an escape route, and then actually builds and amplifies on the northeast side of the system. So this actually gets pushed back west and actually has to find an escape route on the west side of this ridge, because you have this huge amplifying high pressure, this ridge that's building in right here, and the flow is going like this. So that's going to push that low this way. That's an ugly arrow. So that's why it bogs down. We'll kind of get this in a faster motion for you here. See how it's coming? All right. Wide open weakness. You're thinking, okay, this is going to make landfall and scoot through. And this could still do it. None of this is we don't know exactly what's going to happen. This could quickly escape through this route right here. It could. But watch what happens very quickly. Ridge builds right on top of it, prevents it from escaping, kind of zigzags around that ridge, and then that's all she wrote. I hope I explained that in a way that you guys can understand. And I will show you the Europeans' version of this. Watch what happens with the Euro. We're just going to show you the U.S. instead of starting in the Caribbean, just so we don't make this video go any longer than what it is. Okay, here comes that upper low, digging down. This looks like a full-fledged cutoff low. It kind of breaks open that ridge. All right, creates this wide open weakness right into here. Same thing as the GFS, wide open weakness. Remember, the Euro is weaker with this low down here. So you're not going to see as much as the blues show up to your down the bottom of your screen. But there's still just a wide open weakness here. Where's your low down here? Well, it's right here. See this blob of white? That's where your low is, right into here. This is actually so weak, it's embedded in ridging. But you're still just, the flow is basically stagnant down here. Okay, it's just flat out stagnant because there's ridging actually built around this system. So it's just stuck in very stagnant, slow flow in the levels of the atmosphere that's steering this. So you keep this going. Finally, a huge upper trough digs down into the northeastern U.S. Okay, we have a strengthening low at this point, and the flow around this trough is digging just like this. Our system right here starts to feel that, okay, starts to feel that pull from this upper trough. And get this back off, and you're thinking, okay, finally we can get rid of this system, right? And then that trough disappears, and guess what happens? Ridging builds on top of the system 10 days from now in the Euro, with still a pretty decent tropical storm low and hurricane off the coast of the eastern U.S. And we don't know what's going to happen after day 10, August the 10th, but I can tell you with this strong ridge building over North America, this would most likely try to push this back. Okay, because remember the flow is going like this. This would try to push this back into the eastern U.S. So, folks, we got a lot to figure out with this. I hope I explained that in a way where you guys can understand. Let's see if there's a new update. And there is. There's a new update, and we did not update it to 70%. But, like I mentioned, it did pull it a little bit further into the Gulf of Mexico, a little bit less off the coast of the southeast. Okay? So, that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Y'all have a wonderful night.